I've never been someone who has adjusted well to change. I write this as I approach the end of my college career and reflect on the beginning of it, the loneliest period of my life. Fresh out of the frying pan of high school and into a drastically different fryer, I was socially anxious and devastatingly isolated. One thing that brought me comfort was watching anime, including the eponymous Sailor Moon. I was exposed to Sailor Moon when it shared VHS tape space with Pokemon back in the day, and growing older, I was always aware of how ubiquitous it was in the anime community, but picking it up for sheer comfort food during my lonely early college days, hoping its bright colors and uplifting subjects would be enough to bolster my spirits, the show managed to speak to me in far more than that surface level. Sailor Moon's trappings aren't unheard of in superhero and magical girl anime, from the double life as school students that Usagi and her teammates lead, to the themes of powers of friendship saving the day. That said, there are character dynamics and themes at play that really set the Sailor Guardians apart from their contemporaries and their predecessors. Usagi Tsukino is their leader, and I'd argue that one of the most important things about her is the fact that she kinda sucks. She's not good at applying herself to school, she sobs at the drop of a hat, she's irresponsible and is capable of violent anger. You'd think a character like this would be hard to follow and love, but Usagi has a task at hand that is downright Herculean, gathering the destined Sailor Guardians to save the world. And I'd argue that it's not saving the world that's the hard part, but making friends with four girls who are, for all intents and purposes, major lone wolves. Ami Mizuno is a bookworm with abandonment issues, Rei Hino is an outcast for her feudal lifestyle, Makoto Kino lost her parents in an accident and has had to fend for herself, and Minako Aino ran away from heartbreak to be a vigilante hero. With more collective baggage than the December airport, you'd think it'd be impossible to get four girls like these to harness their unity as a team. And yet, Usagi pulls them together almost effortlessly. They aren't a perfect team, and Usagi is far from a perfect leader, but she has the heart to be the glue that bonds the Sailor Guardians. This is the strength she brings. Opposed to wits or immense skill, she has the arguable most important job of keeping the girls a team, no matter how rough around the edges they are. And despite the fact that rivalries of love and pursuit of studies threaten to tear the fabric of their camaraderie apart, the Guardians never forget the value of their friendship and the priorities it takes between them. And the thing about the Sailor Guardians is this is not their first life as a close knit unit. They're all the reincarnations of Sailor Guardians of each planet many, many years ago, and to fight the re-risen threats they dealt with in their past lives, they were always destined to reincarnate and reunite. Their friendship is one of centuries and galaxies worth of history and union, one that no amount of misunderstanding or sheer difference could tear apart. And this was the thing I sort of needed to hear, that one's friends, whether guided by past life or fate, are out there, and one, no matter how low they feel, needs only to go and find them. Sailor Moon's friends die, and she can still draw upon their power by their sheer memories, because friendship like that is one that is never truly gone, and even after the universe is rebuilt and their memories are wiped, fate draws everyone together again, because it's what they need to be together. And that, in turn, made me realize that no matter what kind of spells of loneliness I'd go through, the memories I had carried just as much power as they did before, and that my friends were still out there even if we had to meet still. Just like the moon herself, we have a gravitational pull, and if it's meant to be, it will become close to you, even if only now and then. People will come and go, and there's very little harder than that, but if our existence has any direction, then the stars will align to reunite you with the people you must be reunited with. Even if it does this work through you, we are all the moon gravitating in our planets and stars, even if at different rates. And it was nice to know that there were people out there that would befriend people similar to me, because my chances of finding my tribe were just as good as the character I felt most kinship and similarity to, Sailor Mercury, Ami Mizuno. Never had I encountered a character who struck a chord with me so perfectly, a character written not as a loner by choice, but not a social butterfly per se, someone who towed the line between extrovert and introvert just as I felt I always have. Ami had a deep desire for friendship, but she has several impediments socially. Her passions and talents lie with the intellectual and artistic, meaning she's often not considered for play or free time. When it becomes an opportunity for her peers, no one means to be cruel to her, but there's a Pygmalion effect at play that no one figures the bookworm wants to join the games, so a loner she remains. I also read Ami's fixation on academics and routine as symptomatic of the autism spectrum, and Ami's difficulty being social wasn't made any easier by the divorce of her parents, all of which were factors very similar to what I've endured and suffered as a hurdle putting myself out there. It takes someone as driven, if not inept, as Usagi to pull Ami from her dour cycle. That made me realize I had hope, and if I do, so does everyone else. Seeing a character so close to me in personality and complex, lonely because fear and status quo outpace her desire for kinship no matter how strong, gave me the hope to carry on and pursue social relationships. I knew my own sailor guardians, if you will, were out there, and the stars would align to unite us sooner or later, and this was precisely what I needed to grow, take risks, and make friends. I have the rainbow colored magical girl anime to thank for the preservation of my social life in my darkest hours. And what's neat about that is there's a flavor of Sailor Guardian for everyone's story of loneliness. Rei Hino was blamed for supernatural occurrences in town because she lived a lifestyle that didn't fall into the status quo, and her slimy politician father has made her weary of connections. When Makoto Kino lost her parents to a plane crash, she abandoned all hope of tight connections in exchange for caring for herself, not having time to form friendships when she had to provide and carry the workload of two passed on adults. And Minako Aino bid farewell to the love of her life when she chose her best friend over her, prepared to bury herself in her duty as a guardian in the stead of being close to anyone. And yet you'd never guess that these resilient girls had so much on their plates when you see them work as a team surrounded by exactly what they need, their closest friends. With all this in mind, there's an additional humanity to the adventures within Sailor Moon in that the battles with supervillains and monsters are often adjacent, if not directly allegorical, to very relatable issues, and both conflicts coming to a head right by one another provides a catharsis in that, more often than not, neither problem could be solved without friends. And if the power of friendship can help our heroes overcome a freakish monster with a tennis shoe for a torso, then it can help you overcome any problem in your life. That was an experience I had at the beginning of college, and as I record this, my graduation date is right around the corner, and as I leave university and leap into the world of professional careers, my fear of reliving the loneliness I endured 5 years ago still hangs over my head. But I have the same source of hope I had before, the story of the impossible bringing together a friendship between people who needed it most. The Sailor Guardians remain important to me to this day because I'll come across challenge after challenge where I'll need their example to muscle through, and so long as I have their story, I know things will be okay.